Hi everybody, hi Zack, happy Thursday. Today I want to sort of bounce off what you just talked about on Tuesday, Zack, when you brought up your problem with television. In Tuesday's post, you referenced shows like Castle and Supernatural, and you talked about how television shows often need continuous storylines to help bring viewers from week to week. With Supernatural, the problem was that in the first few seasons they had a really good continuous storyline, and then when they all of a sudden just dropped it in the 6th season, it became a little lackluster. The problem with Castle, that I myself have picked up on, is that since it's more of a procedural crime drama, it's sort of difficult for it to sustain a common thread storyline from episode to episode across an entire season when they're not harping on it every single episode, and when they don't even have bits and pieces of it showing up for 5 or 6 episodes at a time. It's hard to connect. Today, though, I want to talk about a problem I have with comic books, with DC Comics in particular, that's actually sort of the exact opposite of what you've been saying about television. Now, I love comics. I think it's a wonderful medium for character development and for world building. But one thing that DC Comics has done a lot lately, since they rebooted all of their series with the New 52, is they've been making events out of everything. We hear the word event thrown around a lot lately, and actually, in general, it really bothers me. Like when a B movie comes out on DVD and they call it the DVD release event of summer. It's not an event. You're just releasing a movie, and a pretty mediocre movie at that, on DVD just like every other movie that gets released. Now, when it comes to comic books, the word event is used a little bit more conservatively and appropriately. Oftentimes you'll have a comic book event that's a longer storyline that might spread across a couple of different series, crossing over between stories and characters, and doing more of a big picture than just your everyday weekly issue might. Some of the most special and powerful comic book stories of all time have been part of major events. For instance, Crisis on Infinite Earths, or later on, Infinite Crisis. Now, after quite a few crises, including Final Crisis and Identity Crisis, in addition to the ones I mentioned earlier, DC Comics had what was not really an event as much as it was an implosion. With the New 52, they took almost all of their stories and started all the way back at the beginning and started telling them again in a new way. Now, this was already somewhat of a ploy to get more readers interested in their comics again, but the entire time they had even more beyond that they were doing to try and keep readers reading. From the very beginning, they were introducing little hints of storylines with characters like Pandora and the Phantom Stranger, hinting at larger, grander, greater stories to come. The higher-ups like Jeff Johns were teasing that they had big plans for the DC Comics universe down the road after they started everything else over. And so the New 52 had really not been going on for very long when DC went into their first really big event of the New 52, and that was Trinity War. Trinity War was going to be a big crossover event that pitted all three of the Justice Leagues, Justice League of America, and Justice League Dark, against each other. Now, while I really liked some parts of Trinity War, especially how they interwove the Trinity of Sin in with the Trinity of Justice Leagues, the whole plot was really contrived. The whole conflict that brought them into opposition in the first place seemed really forced, as if they were trying to create this event, but didn't really have a sequential plot to get them there. So they just forced the plot there so that they could get this event rolling and make a big deal out of it and get people reading. Now, I'm a really big fan of developing stories in a linear fashion, about not forcing parts of the story later on unless you know that they are going to arise naturally out of what events come before them. But my biggest number one problem with Trinity War was that it wasn't even serving the purpose we all thought it was going to. After only 2 months, it started in July of 2013 and ended in August of 2013, Trinity War proved only to be an event leading into another event. Without spoiling too much, let me put it this way. Trinity War, as big of an event as they said it was going to be, was really just a prelude to Forever Evil, a new event which was even bigger than Trinity War. Once Trinity War was over, Forever Evil came in and pretty much took over the entire company. Pretty much every single series had Villains Month, which is where the villains took over every single comic book that DC published, and then they started the Forever Evil series, which not only was its own limited series in and of itself, but had 2 or 3 brand new series to connect to it, and tie-ins with dozens of other series in the entire DC Comics universe. Forever Evil has lasted 7 months and has just now been wrapping up. So this journey that we began in July of last year that we thought would be over relatively soon has been dragging on for this long. Yes, again, I will admit, I've really liked parts of Forever Evil. I think part of it has been a really good storyline, and it's been really interesting to see how Jeff Johns and the new team at the New 52 have sort of been taking past storylines from the old universe and sort of telling them in their own way. But here's my problem, which is exactly the opposite of what your problem was with television. I just want to read stories. I don't want to have to deal with an event. I don't want to have to deal with it when an entire company of comic book series turns every single one of their stories into a tie-in to some major event that we weren't even expecting. And I especially don't like it when you advertise this smaller event and then surprise us with an entire other event that totally eclipses, no pun intended if you've read Forever Evil, the first event that we started on. So ever since July, all that DC Comics has been throwing at us has been events. I understand the expression, go big or go home. I believe in that, and I understand that. But there is a point where you can go so big that nothing else seems to matter to you anymore. It seems to us like all that DC Comics is interested in at the moment is throwing big, complicated, contrived storylines down our throats. While you may like television shows that have a continuous storyline, comic books with a continuous storyline can get sort of exhausting after a little while. As I said earlier, comic books are really great for world building, and one of the things that I come to comic books for is to see them explore these magnificent worlds and characters that they give to us. So I don't know about you, but I would love to see less major story arcs in comic books, and I'd like to see DC Comics return to more of the sort of monster of the week style that you described the early season of Supernatural as. Having invested so much time and energy and money into Trinity War and Forever Evil, the only thing that's really going to be keeping me coming back to DC comic books after all of this blows over is the desire to see them just have fun in the sandbox, to see them take stories 1 month at a time and then just explore to give us different characters and different villains, maybe 2 or 3 issue arcs. I love those are fun, but I don't want to invest 9 months in reading a storyline that I didn't even plan for. So fingers crossed that DC Comics doesn't try anything too big after all of this is over, and that they just get back to regular good old-fashioned storytelling. If you have any thoughts or opinions on this, leave some comments down below. Also check out the description because we have all of our links there to all of our social media sites. We're officially on Tumblr now. We also have Facebook pages and Twitter accounts, so be sure to like us and follow us there, and come back next week to see what we got. So until then, have a good one. Hey everybody, I know I'm just getting back in the swing of things after finishing my series last week, but I think I'm going to go ahead and have to take a break on my regular posting for next week. The reason being that the Blair Wind Symphony at the School of Music at Vanderbilt, we're doing a recording session this next week. It's a big project we've been working on since last semester. We recorded half of the pieces for the album last semester, and now we're about to start recording the next 3 pieces this coming week. So we're going to have lots of after-school rehearsals and the recording sessions itself on that weekend. So I'm going to be pretty booked, pretty packed working and preparing on this. So if you could just bear with me, next week I won't do a video, but come back the week after that and I should be back in the swing of things. So definitely be looking out for news about how this recording project is going, and check with on us later. So see you later.